Now, I'll get people who disagree with me on this kind of stuff and say, I've been using my machine like that all my life. That's not an argument. That's an admission of guilt. You've been using your tools wrong all your life. Just because you've been using a tool wrong all your life doesn't mean it's not harmful to the tool. It just means maybe you're just a little ignorant. We've all been ignorant sometimes. I do ignorant stuff all the time, but it's not an excuse. Today we're going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart, and that's using a tractor, and specifically using a tractor what we might call the wrong way. I got a lot of customers because I work at a tractor dealership, and you know, if it's possible to break something, we'll see it broken. And the most popular thing seems like to break on a tractor besides the tractor itself is, of course, the loader. 99% of the tractors we sell come with a loader. You can take off these quick attach buckets, put on a set of forks, put on a grapple, whatever. But I tell you, we see a lot of damage to them, and we have a lot of people arguing with us over whether or not the damage was warranty or whether or not it should have happened. So let's just clear up some misconceptions about how to use a tractor loader. Because first of all, they call it a loader, right? So that should give us clues as to how it's intended to be used. But a tractor is kind of a Swiss Army knife, so I know sometimes we'll use it for different tasks that maybe it's not best adapted to, but you can get away with it. I get it, but let's avoid some of the common pitfalls here from using this loader, you know, incorrectly, that cause the most damage that we see. So that's what we're going to check out today is what causes the most damage to these tractor loaders. Before we get too deep in the weeds here, just go over real quick, you know, the components of a loader, and that'll be important in a minute here because we're going to talk about which components folks break. So, you know, you start at the front of your loader here. This is where you detach your loader, but this is the frame mount for the loader here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, 6 bolts, 7, 8 bolts holding this thing to the tractor. Pretty gnarly. And then of course you got a cylinder here and a cylinder here. So this cylinder lifts, this cylinder would do like a curl and dump, right? And they got grease zerks on them. And there's your connection points. And look at this big, burly, strong metal that this loader is comprised of. And then this one has a quick attach kit. So there's a pin going through the bucket here. And then there's your points that cause this bucket to tilt and dump. So it's connected at 4 points there, right? But the cylinders are what's doing most of the work. So this cylinder gets full of hydraulic fluid and expands or contracts based on how much fluid's coming in through these hoses or leaving through the hoses. And you got little rubber jobbies in there to keep that fluid from just flowing freely one way or another. It has to stop based on your loader control. Okay, so that's kind of the basic of how a loader works, right? Hydraulic pressure, expanding or contracting a cylinder, causing the cylinder to move and make you know, tilt or dump or lift or lower, right? So I see this scenario a lot. Tractor moving forward, hitting an obstacle on one side of the bucket or the other, right? So let's say you've got a stump out there that's been bothering you, and every day you go by and you're like, I'm going to take that stump out. Well, sometimes it's kind of hard to see the front side of your bucket, so people will start hitting it with the sides so they can look around and see it. Well, what's going on there is you're causing torsion on your loader frame. So, you know, with every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? That's as sciencey as we're going to get. So I'm going to hit this stump. It's not a barrel, it's a stump, and move forward. Well, the edge of my bucket that hits that stump is going to move backwards, and the other side's going to move forward. So look at this frame. It's going to twist your frame this way and that. It's putting tons of pressure on these frame bolts down here. We've seen these bolts shear a lot, actually, you know, from people just slamming into stuff. People come in all the time. They're so proud of beating the S word out of their equipment. I don't get it, man. You spent like 30 grand on that thing. Why would you beat it up? But it is what it is. It not only causes pressure over here and breaks bolts, but it causes pressure here where the pressure is going back on the bolts. So it's an unequal pressure. So all those bolts can't work in unison to keep the loader tied to the frame. It causes breakage. All right. So yes, you can see already how bent this bucket or loader frame is just from resting it on top of this barrel. We see this a lot. Twisted frames from either trying to push stuff into the ground or pull stuff out of the ground. You know, a lot of folks will put hooks on the edges or the side of their buckets and then lift with the corner and totally tweak that frame. We see it a lot more than you'd believe. Maybe just don't think about it. Again, this is a loader. I get you're supposed to be able to lift with it, but if you lift off center and bend that frame, you're going to have some issues. So consider, even though I never recommend really welding hooks to your bucket, it's going to be dangerous for a lot of reasons. Put it on the center, only lift with the center. It's going to cause you, or it's going to save you from a lot of pain and agony. So, you know, we're seeing here things that twist it side to side or twist it back and forth really, really hard on the loader frame. You can bust bolts, you can bust the frame itself, you can tweak arms, you can tear out your cylinders from their mounts if you tweak them enough. You know, these things will bend side to side and bust out of their mounts. Really dangerous. Okay, so I'm going to show you the next one here that I actually saw a guy at work doing, and it just blew my mind. A guy at a tractor dealership didn't know that you're not supposed to do this with your tractor loader. So let's show you this one. So right here, this hurt me to even do, running this bucket at an angle and scraping forward with it. Here's why. So if we look right here, what we've got is got is me falling down. We've got a lever, and the lever's going like this, equal and opposite reaction. You're scraping forward, the lever's pushing like this, and it's putting all of its force against these pins right here, which lead to this cylinder. So we can shatter pins, or we can just tear the guts out of these cylinders. If nothing else, we're going to get, you know, where the fluid goes in and out, we're going to get that fluid bypassing the rubber that supposed to keep the fluid in the cylinder. So all of a sudden you get floppy bucket syndrome from doing this. We see that a lot. But in a worst case scenario, you actually tear the guts out or bend the cylinder because you're putting so much force on that cylinder. If you're going to scrape with your loader, run your loader flat. It can still be a little damaging, but not nearly as bad. I mean, what we're talking about here is a multiplication of force. Holy smokes, it's dangerous to scrape that way. Don't do it. Lay your bucket flat, or better yet, if we're doing a lot of scraping, invest in something made for scraping, like a box scraper. Okay, look at that thing. It's called a box scraper. It's made for scraping. Or, you know, get an angle blade. That's also made for scraping. But if you're using something called a loader for scraping, consider the fact that you may be using it for a purpose it's not built for. Okay, so we know what that is. We know it's damaging. Are there exceptions to this rule? You know, maybe you looked in the spec sheet for your tractor and it said, hey, we have a digging depth with this loader of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 inches. Yeah, so you can dig little ditches like this, right? I got a little drainage ditch here that I dug with the tractor because this is all filling up with water. I didn't do a great job, but yeah, we got a ditch here. You can do it a little bit. Just consider the question, is the material I'm pushing into or trying to cut soft? You know, if you're pushing into a gravel road or pushing into concrete, you're not pushing into mud, those torsional forces are going to hurt you. Other thing people like to talk about is backblading. You know, we're making a driveway, right? And we're going to you know, lay out some gravel and drive backwards to smooth the gravel out. Sure, you can have your bucket angled, but consider it's going to do the opposite. It's just going to push on that cylinder. You can pull some gravel out of a pile backwards. It ain't going to destroy the machine, but that's because that material is moving. Whereas a hardscape like this, concrete hardscape, and if I hit a divot or something, it's going to jerk me. So we're going to use a little common sense, just looking at how these loaders are set up. It's always better to use them flat. The loader is designed to be flat, go into a load of stuff, scoop, go somewhere and dump. That's what it's meant to do. Any other usage is a little outside of the intended use, but if you're smart, you can get away with it. So we avoid torsion, twisting on that loader frame. We try to avoid this kind of motion that tears out our cylinders, and things should be okay. Okay, that's it. You've had your lecture for the day. Now, if you want to go out and break your stuff, you can do it the right way. You can break your stuff on purpose and not on accident. So then you can take pride in how well you broke it. All right, you all have a great day. We will see you around. And yeah, if you disagree with me on this video, feel free to comment. I'm pretty sure I'm right, but feel free to comment. That's cool. I won't get in a huge fight with you. All right, well, we'll see you later. Yep, bye.